Hi guys, welcome back to another Tute with Shane. Today we're going to be looking at creating our very first part. So let's jump in. So as you can see, we've got our new window. We've already set it up. She's ready to go. So we'll just jump in and we'll click on part. And that should open up our part window, which will allow us to start creating and editing parts. So basically when we're in Inventor, we'll just duck back and just have a bit of a look quickly. So when we're in Inventor, we basically want to continue on a path where we're creating parts, individual parts, and then we're taking them into an assembly and putting them together. So there's a bit of a process, and then from there we can start looking at drawings. We can go straight from parts to drawings as well if we need to, and then we can jump into presentation, which shows us how the assemblies actually go together. But for now, we'll jump back into parts again. So the very first thing that we need to think about when we're jumping into a part as well is looking at how we're actually going to create the part. Have a bit of a think about what the part is going to look like and what the best way of actually producing a part, because there's several different ways that we can actually create a part. And we can have a look up here, and these are all the little ways that we can actually create our part from these sort of area sections in here. The main one that I want to look at to start with is this guy here. So we're just going to start by extruding. If you're not too sure, you should have this turned on your Inventor if you're just starting out. So what you can do is just hold over an actual button, let your mouse go, and it'll actually give you a bit of a description on what that actual function does. So let's have a bit of a look here too. So we need to do this in a bit of a set process as well for starters. So each of these pretty much needs an actual sketch to be able to operate. So what we'll do is have a look at our sketch. So this will be our very first step that we'll do. And as soon as I hit sketch, you can see there that it's pulled up some different planes. So we've got our XY plane, we've got our YZ plane, and we've got our XZ plane. So we can start to create or design our actual sketch on any of these planes. So I might jump on this one just for the hell of it, and that will take me and swing me around so that I'm looking straight down on that plane. So now I can actually click on my sketch because I want to start creating a sketch, and in this case all I'm going to do is actually just create a box just to get us started. And as soon as you open up, what you can see, all you can see is a little dot in the center, and down the left hand corner we see we've got a little guy here, and we've got our Y, we've got our X, and we've got our Z. So they're actually continue on for eternity. So the only actual fixed point in our virtual environment, which is this environment here, is our very center point that you can probably only just see there. So that's where I'd like to start, and that will become a bit more apparent as we progress through. So what I might do is I'll just start by creating a sketch, and I'll do it on that plane. You'll also notice that I haven't got my model panel on the left hand side, so I might just actually pop that in just so that you guys can see it. So you can go to Views, User Interface, and then you can just go down to Models and just make sure that that's checked. Now the reason why I wanted to have a bit of a check of this one is you might have noticed that I actually created a sketch twice. Now this is quite often for people that are just starting in Inventor to create quite a few sketches just the way I did just then. So it's good to keep track of this, because really we want to keep this to a minimum if we can. The less the amount of functions or activities that we have listed down in our models or our model panel, the easier it is going to be to go back and start editing and working with our part. This can get quite long, especially if we've got a very complex part. So to be able to keep that to a minimum and make it as easy as possible to work with. So what we can do is I'll just exit out of that sketch number 1, and I'll just delete that other sketch because I don't really need it, not quite yet. So I might need it later on down the track, but then it may be on a different plane. That's the one of the reasons why it can get a little bit confusing having multiple sketches. It's good to have as minimum as possible. So I'll just double click on that sketch. Always try and double click on the actual symbol rather than the text, because you can click on the text and actually edit the text as well. So to be able to actually enter into the sketch 1, just double click on the actual symbol there. Okay, so what I might do is just create a square just to start off with. So we can click on our rectangle, and there's several different ways that we can create our rectangle. So what we might do is just go with the first one, just keep it nice and simple. And I like to always start from this guy, from the origin it's called. So you pull that out, so click on the origin, drag it out, and then click again, and that will give you your square, your rectangle at the moment. To make it a square, obviously, at the moment, if you right click and press OK, that will take you out of sketch mode, out of the creation of the rectangle, I should say. And you'll notice there that I've actually got two purple lines and a green one, or two green ones. Now the reason for this is that this is telling us that Inventor has enough information to know exactly where this line should be. It knows where this line should be because it's got a constraint to the actual origin here. So it knows that this line needs to be horizontal and it needs to be connected to our center point or our origin. This vertical one, it knows it needs to be vertical and it needs to be connected to that origin. We can make these guys purple as well by giving it some additional information, and we'll just pop in a dimension. So I might make this 10 mil. You can see there straight away that top line has become purple. We'll do the same for the bottom, make that 10, and we have a square, perfect square. It's all purple, so Inventor knows exactly where every single piece should be. I'll just go back a bit, because what would happen if I actually used this square at the moment? At the moment, we could extrude this and it would create a shape, but it could be any size at all. We haven't actually specified how big this needs to be. It hasn't got enough information. If you don't click or work from the origin point, we don't have these guides or these purple lines appearing when things have enough information or if they've got enough constraints attached to them. So we've got all of these constraints, and your dimensions are actually a constraint as well. We'll get into constraints a little bit more because they're very important in another video, so hang in for that one. That's a really important one. But we'll just put in some dimensions. So there's a couple of different ways we can add in dimensions. I'll just go back again. So we can click on dimensions. We can click on the endpoint to endpoint to get our dimensions. We'll put in 10. We can click on the line that we want to dimension, and that will give us our dimension. Okay, so we're fully constrained, so it's exactly what we want. So we might look at extruding this now, because we're just going to make a 10 by 10 by 10 square, or cube I should say now, and we'll go to 3D model, which is the next tab up the top. and you can go to Extrude. And now this gives us another function. We can drop this down here, and that'll give us a rundown on what we can use. So I'll just run through this a little bit quickly. So we've got our profile, so we can click on that and select several different profiles. At the moment we've got one sketch, so that's only one profile that it can actually be. So Inventor intuitively says, okay, you've only got one profile to choose. That's obviously the profile that you're wanting to extrude. If we had multiple profiles, we could click on those as well, and it probably would not have extruded anything at all. It would have had waited until we selected the profile. Okay, so we've got a couple of other different functions. Don't worry about these guys too much now. We'll get into those a bit later. But these guys here, I just want to go through these. So we've got our extrude extents is going to be, so our extrude is going to be 10 millimeters, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. These guys here, we can extrude from our sketch in this direction. We can click on that one and it'll extrude in the opposite direction. We can select this one and it will extrude in either direction to get the 10 millimeters. We can also select this one to specify if we want it to go 10 millimeters this way, or we may want it to go 7 millimeters this way, 3 millimeters this way. So that gives us a little bit of an opportunity there to select how we actually develop or implement that extrude. So I just want a simple extrude in this case, just to give you a bit of an example, and that brings up our square. So perfect. That's exactly what we set out to do, and we've accomplished our square. Don't forget to save your project. So click on save, bring up your save window, tell Inventor where you want to save, pick a good location, somewhere where you know you can pop them, that no one's going to delete them on you. Find a good position where you will remember where you're actually saving your projects to as well. Very important to make sure that you're saving your projects. So that's a very simple part, and we'll get into a little bit more detail a little bit later on, but for now that's it. And if there's any further questions, please let me know. If you have any videos that you would like me to do in the future, please let me know as well. And goodbye for now, guys. See you soon.